Is Deshaun Watson a QB1 this week against the Houston Texans? That and so much more on tonight's episode of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. Troy, go ahead and start us off with this question here coming in from Frank Picard. Is Deshaun Watson a QB1?
Maybe. That's not, so no, to be honest, I say yes. I feel like he hasn't played football in a very long time, but it's nice to have your first matchup in a long time against the worst team in the league. So, and against his former team, there's a lot of storylines, there's a lot of drama going on with it. But I would say, look, as long as he's rushing, if it looks somewhat like, I'm not expecting him to look like Deshaun Watson that we used to see. It's going to take a while for him to get back into form. But if he's 60% of that, I think that he could be a QB1 just because his team's better, offensive line's better. Yeah, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Njoku. So yes, I will say that he's going to be a QB1 against the worst team in the league.
Yeah, quite the upgrade from, no doubt DeAndre Hopkins was great, but he never had an offensive line. His wide receiver, too, was Will Fuller, who was never healthy for more than 2 or 3 games in a row. I mean, this guy was throwing to Kiki Kuti and Jordan Akins and, an old banged up David Johnson. Like, he's never really had strong weapons outside of DeAndre Hopkins. And now he's got a very well-rounded and good supporting cast. So I'm with you. And I think there's kind of this misconception too. I've heard so many people saying that the Houston Texans don't give up a lot of points to quarterbacks. Well, that's because teams haven't had to throw against Houston. They've been so bad that they can just run. Well, guess what? Deshaun Watson is a rushing quarterback. So I think that this is going to be kind of a good opportunity for the Cleveland Browns to ease him back in, give him some plays where he can rip off some big chunk plays and get that confidence back up. So, I think, yeah, he is a QB1. I don't, you're not starting him over Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, or anything like that. But I think that he absolutely falls within the top 10 or 12 quarterbacks this week. Victoria, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make really good points. I think I want to piggyback off of your point on, teams are running against the Houston Texans, and you've got Nick Chubb on the Cleveland side of the ball. So, there is that fear that they kind of ease him back in, don't make Deshaun Watson throw a ton, but it's Deshaun Watson. He's been sitting, he's been waiting this whole time. Just like, if you have him, you likely picked him up a couple weeks ago off the waiver wire, or you've been holding him this whole time, hopefully not in one quarterback redraft. But, I think you got to put him out there if you've got him and start him. Dave, I don't know if you want to reference our own Jordan McNamara wrote an article looking at quarterbacks that kind of had either been injured or took time off and then came back to the game. And he analyzed Andrew Luck coming back after injury. He analyzed Ryan Tannehill, Michael Vick, and
Peyton Manning,
exactly. And Manning is the best comp that he could find. So Manning finished as QB6, QB4, and QB4 from 2008 to 2010, then missed 2011 with a neck injury, then signed with Denver after that and finished as QB4 at 36 years old. So it's possible. He basically, his research basically showed us that there's not too much of a fall off after an injury or coming back and signing with a new team. So I'm not too scared. The only thing, like I said, referencing in the beginning is, they're definitely going to be running Nick Chubb a lot, but I'm going to throw him out there for sure.
Yeah. And I think you can even, if you look at what Jordan pulled up, you could almost make the argument that these quarterbacks were better after a little extended time off. I mean, with the wear and tear of playing through an NFL season, taking those hits week after week after week, I mean, you could make the argument that he might come back a little bit better, but I think at the end of the day, it's just his range of outcomes is so wide. If he puts up 5 points or 50 points, I don't think either would surprise me this week. We know the upside is there. We also know that there is risk that he can be rusty and not be his old self, but let's just kind of walk through the rankings here. I think there's a very clear-cut group that you're not even thinking about putting Deshaun Watson ahead of, and that's Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. And then I think that's when things get a little bit shaky. Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott. I think he kind of falls into that tier. But if you've got any of those guys, I think it's best to just sit on Watson for this week and start those other guys instead. So I think really, if you are in that position where you're rotating through Tom Brady, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff and Marcus Mariota, and you're streaming quarterbacks every single week, that's when you put Deshaun Watson into your lineup this week and hope for the best. If you got Kyler Murray, who is on bye this week, you put Deshaun Watson in this week, but I don't think you're putting him ahead of any of the top 6 or 8 guys right now, at least. Just kind of hold him and see what happens. But anyway, we got a ton to talk about now. It's crazy. This is the second to last week for a lot of people before playoffs start. We have some people that are starting playoffs next week. However your league is set up, the end is near. We are on the home stretch, and we are going to hopefully give you some advice today to help you bring home that trophy. Before we get into it, just want to introduce my co-host. We got the whole gang back together today for the first time in a few weeks. Victoria, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
I missed you guys. I'm so excited to be here. You can find me at FFB_Victoria on Twitter and Instagram.
And Troy?
You guys can find me at T King Mode, basically on all social media platforms, but Twitter is my home base. I appreciate y'all.
And I'm Dave Kluge. You can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. But before we get into the rest of the show, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you're watching this video right now, it's going to help bring some other people to the video. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, youtube.com/footballguys. And if you want to find Football Guys on Twitter, you can find that real simply at Football Guys. Now let's go ahead and dive in. And the next question that we got here comes in from our good friend Jimbo Swenson, who is saying, do we expect another big game from Mike White? Has he officially taken over the job in New York? I don't know if we've ever seen a number 2 overall pick fall off this quickly. Victoria, talk us through what is happening a little bit right now with the New York Jets and Mike White.
At least Zach Wilson scored, before the season with whoever's mama, we'll give him that. But he is not going to be scoring for the Jets
Sorry,
for
Joe.
a long, long time. Yeah, sorry, Joe, hashtag. Mike White has definitely taken the job. 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Are you kidding me? Last week was actually really fun to watch. Obviously, I'm not a big Jets fan, being a Bills fan and, AFC's battle, but that was fun to watch. Now, he's got the Vikings this week, and you kind of look at it like, the Vikings are pretty hot. They're about to take the division, etc. But I think I would throw him out there. Especially, I have no qualms if you got him in super flex, but the Vikings aren't as scary as they appear to be. I was looking since week 6, there's only been 1 week where a quarterback didn't have 20 or more points against them, and that was the Commanders. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt, Commanders quarterbacks. So
and what week was that? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out
that was
where the carousel of the quarterbacks in Washington
exactly.
was that week.
That was week 9. So that's what I was thinking too.
That was I think
Heineke was in. Yeah, I believe so. Not that I'm not sure Carson Wentz would have performed better, but yeah, the quarterbacks are doing just fine against the Vikings. And we saw Mac Jones throw for 1,000,000 yards last week. Obviously, that was a tough battle between those teams, but Mac Jones is throwing for 382. Then I'm putting Mike White out there. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think Mike White looks great, and we kind of saw that last year in that really small stretch, and that was Zach Wilson's rookie year. So at that time, it made sense. No, we just drafted this guy number 2 overall. We got to go back to the well with Zach Wilson here, and that's what they did. But then over this offseason, I don't even think that it was no step forward. I think Zach Wilson actually took some steps backwards, and we know that this is a very potent offense. Joe Flacco was crushing it when he was the quarterback early in the season. Then Zach Wilson comes in and they completely switch up their game plan, win some games, but don't look good. And now Mike White has just elevated them. I will say, though, as a Bears fan, that we got to take last week's game with a little bit of salt. This is a team that traded away Khalil Mack, traded away Robert Quinn, traded away Roquan Smith. Eddie Jackson got hurt in the first quarter. You could just go on and on and on. I'd be surprised if either of you could even name a single defender on the Bears defense right now. This team is just terrible. So Mike White looked really good last week, but the Bears defense has made a lot of quarterbacks look really good in recent weeks. So, let's kind of play the game that we do when we're talking about these players that are kind of trending up and talk about some other people. And I think, we've got the top 10. You're probably not starting Mike White over any of those guys, but what about Tom Brady? Tom Brady's been struggling, got a pretty tough matchup against New Orleans this week. Would you think about playing Mike White over Tom Brady?
That's kind of crazy. I think I'd rather play Tom Brady. I don't know if I'm going that far yet.
I think that one's kind of a coin flip, but I think that's really the only streamer that you're plugging in or that you got a tough decision. Once you start working down the list, looking at Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Marcus Mariota. I think you're playing Mike White over all
Yeah.
of those guys.
No, I agree.
Tom historically struggles too against the Saints defense. They have given him fits over the last couple of seasons. So
Yeah, they take away that number one weapon. Marshawn Lattimore just shuts down Mike Evans, and for whatever reason, they get that interior pressure on Tom Brady, and he just falls apart. So, I mean, if we're putting Mike White ahead of Tom Brady, that makes Mike White a QB1 this week.
that sounds crazy when you put it like that.
I mean, I also expect the Vikings and Jets game to, I want to say shootout, but I expect the Vikings to score, even though it's going to be a tough defense. I don't know if Sauce Gardner, maybe he shuts down Justin Jefferson, but I feel they're going to find creative ways to get Justin Jefferson open. That's how they win games, right? They move Justin Jefferson all over the field, put him in the slot, put him everywhere in order to get him the ball. So I feel they're going to use a similar strategy. I think they are going to be able to score, enough points where Mike White's going to have to throw the ball a lot. I have no idea what's going on with the running back situation, and maybe it's Donovan White. So I feel that, look, I think Mike White is going to throw I don't know if he's going to look as good as he did against the Bears. I don't know if I expect them to win this game, but I feel like you can't be worse than what Zach Wilson was, right? So again, I think that's the upside here. And I think that Mike White, he would have to throw like 3-4 interceptions for him to lose his job, in my opinion.
So that's what my next question was going to be. Are there any circumstances where we see Zach Wilson come back this year? Because, I mean, the season's winding down. We got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We got 6 weeks left.
He'd have
Is
to
there any chance
implode.
Zach Wilson comes back?
There'd have to be injury,
Or he has to really be bad. Like, again, like if on Sunday, if he throws like 3 picks, then we see Zach Wilson again. But
if he throws 3 picks, though, do they go to Zach Wilson or do they go to Joe Flacco? Like, I don't even know who the QB2 is right now.
I mean,
Wilson lost the locker room, and he says, I talk to everybody, etc. But he lost the locker room right now, and Mike White's a hero now. So, and they're winning. That's the thing.
I'm sure you saw that picture going around where it was the quarterback bench, and it's every single quarterback, Flacco, Mike White, and they're all staring at the tablets, and you see Zach Wilson just staring off into nowhere. And granted, it's one picture. It could have been taken out of context, but picture says 1,000 words, and it seems like people in New York have turned on Zach Wilson pretty quickly. Do you have anything else we want to add on Mike White, or do we want to move on to the next question here?
We can move on. I just said that, look, if he shows up against the Vikings, then I feel like it's a wrap. Like, it's his job. Even if I think it's a job to lose. If he balls out again, then it's Mike White time.
And the one last thing I'll say, Troy, you talked about how the Minnesota Vikings moved Justin Jefferson around and all this. I think last week we saw a huge progression from Justin Jefferson, which, already the best receiver in the league. I don't think you can see him get much better. But early in the season, when he would be covered, Kirk Cousins was afraid to throw the ball to him. And then something clicked last week where he said, I don't care if Justin Jefferson is going to be double covered. I'm just going to throw the ball up to him. And Justin Jefferson made play after play after play. It doesn't matter how covered he is. It doesn't matter how many guys you have on him. He's still going to come down with catches. So, when you talked about Sauce Gardner, I'm not worried in the slightest. And Sauce Gardner has been one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but I'm not worried one bit. I think Justin Jefferson, if you just feed him 10 to 12 targets a game, he's going to turn it into 100 yards and a touchdown just about every single week. Absolutely. Well, the next question here comes from SFFan29341. Deebo Samuel has been bad recently and is banged up. Do you feel that he bounces back against the Dolphins this week? Troy, as our Dolphins fan, talk to us a little bit here. Do you think that this is a matchup where Deebo Samuel could potentially bounce back?
I don't believe so. And the reason why is I think a lot of it has to also do with CMC. I want to credit, I believe, it Dwayne McFarland. I think he put out a stat today about how Deebo's usage or target share has been cut in half ever since CMC was traded to San Francisco. And I know that CMC is dealing with some knee irritation, but again, Deebo's also banged up. I feel that if CMC is limited or potentially misses this game, then I feel a lot more confident in Deebo. But because we just haven't seen him used as consistently in creative ways like we did prior to CMC. Like we saw Deebo all over the place. Now with CMC in the mix, we're seeing less of that from Deebo, and we've seen Ayuk scoring a bunch of touchdowns. So Deebo's definitely fallen off the love list like he was earlier in the season when he was just the darling. And again, he's been dealing with his hamstring issues, and so I would say that, I mean, you could play him. You need to temper expectations. I think at best he's a wide receiver 2 He's definitely not a wide receiver 1. So I do not believe that he's going to be a wide receiver 1 against the Dolphins defense, but I say that mid to low wide receiver 2, I think, is probably going to be a ceiling.
Yeah, and I had this talk with Chris Harris a few weeks ago, and everybody still has this idea, and I think it's just from the offseason and from last year that Deebo's the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I mean, I don't even know if it's a wide receiver 1A, 1B type thing. I mean, he and Brandon Ayuk play such different roles that I think when it comes to ranking these guys, I think you're right. He's not a wide receiver 1 anymore, but I think that you almost just kind of have to put Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are both kind of at that wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 bubble, like, kind of a fringe either way. And you got to keep starting both of them because their ceilings are so high. But I hate to throw around the terms too many mouths to feed because it is such a cliche, but we're looking at an offense now. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, or whoever the other running back is that's going to get some touches, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings somehow pulls like 4 to 6 targets every single week, it seems like, too. I mean, this really is the epitome of an offense that has too many mouths to feed. And that makes it tough to rely on any of these guys as a wide receiver 1 or an RB1 because in any game, they can just get phased out. So, Victoria, what are your thoughts with Deebo? Do you think he bounces back this week, or do we just kind of have to reshape our perspective on the type of fantasy player that he is?
No, you guys both said it, hit the nail on the head there. I don't have much more to say on this. Just that hamstring is a tricky thing. These last 2 weeks watching the game, I've seen him come out and they're using the gun on his hamstring, just trying to loosen it up, and just he's on the sidelines every so often. So I'm not benching him, but again, as Troy already said, maintain those expectations pretty low. You guys are talking about Brandon Ayuk on the other side of the ball. He's been just awesome this season. For fantasy, middling. He'll finish anywhere these last couple weeks since about week 6, anywhere from wide receiver 10 or something to the 30s. He's been a decent wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. So he's provided a pretty solid floor there. Nothing crazy, but solid. I'm definitely utilizing him as a flex in a lot of leagues. But I don't think this is the week we see Deebo have a massive bounce back game. If CMC is out, Troy has a fantastic point. They probably will feed him a little bit more, but I'm still not like having wide receiver 1 expectations with CMC out.
I'm not trying to put either of you guys on the spot, but who do you think has more points this year per game? Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk?
Brandon Ayuk, because he had a couple big games.
They both have exactly 13.7 points per game.
Wow.
I mean, these guys are putting up the same production, and they have such wildly different roles where Deebo's getting jet sweeps and bubble screens. Brandon Ayuk's getting his targets 15, 20 yards downfield. So they couldn't be different players. But now that we have, over half a season sample, they're putting up exactly 13.7 PPR points per game. So yeah, you got to keep starting either of them. They're both in that boomer bust territory, unfortunately. And then, the same thing is going to happen with George Kittle. George Kittle's going to have 180 yards and 2 touchdowns one week, and then he's going to have 2 targets and 6 yards the next. I mean, it's just this whole team is kind of boomer bust now, unfortunately. But given the upside for all of these players, Deebo, Ayuk, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, you got to just keep plugging them into your lineup and hoping for the best every single week. Next question comes in from Bethany Stevens, and Bethany's asking us, with Kyler on bye this week, who should I stream at QB? I think we already talked about one streamer that we all like quite a bit if he's available, but who are some other people that we might want to stream? Victoria, who are some QB streamers that you're looking at for week 13?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, Mike White, baby. Let's go. Jimmy G, he hasn't been fantastic last week. Tough matchup against the Saints. That was just an ugly defensive game. I don't know if anyone was watching. Side note, outside of this question, I kept seeing on Red Zone, they'd have the Saints in the red zone over and over and over again. And I keep looking at the score, and the Saints still have 0 points. And I'm like, what are they doing over there? My goodness gracious. Going for it on every 4th down. So Jimmy G's not been great, but nice matchup with the Dolphins here. Their over-under is 46.5. It's not awesome, but I like Jimmy G this week. Jags Detroit has an over-under of, I saw 52 points somewhere. Trevor Lawrence had a fantastic game last week. He looked really, really, really sharp.
That game winning drive,
amazing,
a beauty.
and just going for it. Doug Peterson's like, let's do it, baby. I mean, the confidence coming off of that game. I do like Trevor Lawrence this week against Detroit. That Swiss cheese defense, as you guys like to say. I think I like those guys the best. I was thinking, I don't know how y'all's thoughts on Geno Smith this week. Not really that great of a matchup. I imagine they utilize the ground game a little bit more, and Geno's not used as much. But he's against the Rams with no Aaron Donald, so.
Aaron Donald missing his first career game ever. I couldn't believe that when I read it. I had to go back and check. He has
That's
never missed a game in his
crazy.
career. Now this team is without Cooper Kupp. They're without Allen Robinson. They're without Matthew Stafford. They're
Everybody.
without Aaron Donald. I mean, every big name on there. At this point, I'm just expecting Jalen Ramsey to miss the bus and not even show up to the stadium and just say, "Hey, sorry guys, I'm done." It's been a weird season for the Rams, but I'm with you. If Geno's available, I do like him ahead of Mike White, actually, just ever so slightly. So if he's available, that would be my guy. Troy, is there anybody that Victoria did not cover?
Maybe Taylor Heineke. I mean, he's somebody that he hasn't been wildly impressive, but he should be widely available, and he doesn't completely suck. He's not gonna get you like he's not gonna throw like 300 yards, but I just feel like in terms of variety, if you can't get some of the other guys, I don't mind Taylor Heineke, I guess, as like a last option.
He's got some sneaky wheels too. We've
Yeah.
seen Taylor Heineke run it a little bit. You know, he's not your Konami code quarterback, but kind of in that like Ryan Tannehill range where he can
Yeah.
get you an extra 30 or 40 yards on the ground, maybe running for a touchdown here or there. I don't hate that call at all, but I think Geno Smith, Mike White, those are the guys that I'm especially interested in this week if you are able to get them. Now we got one last question that we are going to answer that was pre-submitted. After we get that question, then we'll go to the chat and answer all of your questions live. We've already seen quite a few come through, so keep dropping those questions in the chat and we will get to them as soon as we answer this one from Jeff Haralampopoulos. If Christian McCaffrey is out, do you trust Jordan Mason or Tyrion Davis Price more? Victoria, who do you... I mean, yeah, you took it right out of my head. I saw you throw your hands up, and that's exactly where I'm at, too.
That's it. Like, what is the answer here, y'all? This is a wicked game to play, to guess the running back for San Francisco that's going to have production on the ground if CMC's out. You kind of, if you're desperate, obviously, if you're desperate, you need an RB2 or flex, you're just taking a shot. Like, I guess Jordan Mason, but I'm really not trying to. There's somebody else on the waiver wire I would feel more comfortable slapping in than just kind of closing my eyes and picking one of these guys if CMC's out.
So in addition to doing this mailbag show, you know, I've got other shows that I do, and I guess on shows quite a bit. This topic has come up on every single show that I've done this week, and every single time, all I do is shrug and I say, I don't know. Whichever one you can pick up for cheaper, I do not know. Nobody knows what is going on inside Kyle Shanahan's head. I don't know. Troy, what do you think?
I would say I don't know either, but one thing that has been fairly consistent is that Jordan Mason, they used Jordan Mason on special teams. So TDP was inactive and Jordan Mason was active. And when Elijah Mitchell was out and CMC was dealing with knee, we saw Jordan Mason get a little bit of run towards the end of the game. And the reason why he's active because they put him on special teams. It doesn't seem like they put TDP on special teams or he doesn't play that. I don't know if he's ever on special teams or he does not used often, but that seems to be where like Jordan Mason is usually involved because he's on special teams. So I don't know. Again, maybe with Elijah Mitchell out, CMC, who knows with him, but maybe obviously CMC is also how we're going to see both of these guys. Who gets the majority of the run? Maybe TDP. He's a big guy. He's a big, strong, physical running back. So that would be maybe the call. But I think kind of like everyone's saying, whoever's cheaper, go for him, stash him. Maybe you play him for a flex, but it's hard to tell because we have no idea.
Let's also not forget about Tevin Coleman, still on the practice
yeah.
squad.
Sweet
Tevin
Lord.
Coleman could get elevated. I'm just saying.
No.
He looked good at that one game. He scored like 20 points in fantasy. So
he was in the same high school district that I was. So I got to watch Tevin Coleman play in high school. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched an NFL talent play in high school, but it's unbelievable. I mean, he was just dragging like 4 bodies at a time behind him. Like nobody could take him down. We're talking suburbs of Chicago. He was just running through people. But I mean, it's really something worth talking about because we know Shanahan is like very loyal to his guys, and Tevin Coleman, you know, he's got that one cut ability, you know, he fits in pretty well with the offense. So don't be surprised if he gets elevated before Sunday, but I don't know. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey's out, I'm probably avoiding both of these guys because I feel like both their floors are so shaky. You can put Jordan Mason in expecting him to be the guy, and then Tyrion Davis-Price gets 28 carries or vice versa. So it's kind of tough to trust either of these guys. If you're in that sort of a pinch, I'd maybe look at Zonovan Knight if
I
he's
was
not already
just
gone.
gonna ask that.
Maybe
Would you
Ty
play him?
Montgomery, Jalen Warren. I like all of those guys more than I like these San Francisco options.
And I will also say that the Dolphins have really been a lot better with the run. So when they play the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb was shut down for most of the game. He did have that one run where he scored a touchdown late, but for the most part, they bottled up Nick Chubb. Dameon Pierce had 8 yards, which that game script had something to do with it, but he was shut down early. So the Dolphins have been playing the run a lot better recently. So just FYI, so maybe there's a reason to possibly avoid these guys, even though say the 49ers O-line is probably the best in the league. So maybe they might open up some holes, but want to make a mention of that.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are just so shaky and so risky. And don't get me wrong, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if one of them finishes the week with 25 or 30 points, but I don't know who it's going to be. And I can't in any sort of confidence recommend either of them to the listeners of the show. If you want to take your roll the dice on one of them, go right ahead. But I think some of the other names we talked about, Jalen Warren, who are some other ones, Victoria? I know you said Zonovan White. Zonovan Knight.
What about, Ty Johnson too? I know he's in the Jets backfield as well with Zonovan, but yeah, Benny Snell, if Jalen Warren can't go. Yeah. There's gotta be somebody else
today, and they said he should be good to go for Sunday. So yeah, okay. if Najee Harris is out, I'd prefer Jalen Warren over any of these guys. Yeah, but it's it's gonna be a tough one, but I think that should be a great matchup. We talked about it a little bit before pre-show, but I put a bet down on this to be the preview for the Super Bowl a few weeks back. I said San Francisco and Miami got them both lined up in the Super Bowl. Could be a really fun matchup this week. That could be a preview of what we see a few months from now. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the chats. We have a bunch of them coming through. Let's start off with this one from Brett Burton saying, "Yo, Football Guys fam, in standard scoring, would you flex Kareem Hunt, Christian Watson, or Josh Palmer?"
Christian Watson is on fire. Yeah, this is the third. This is he's heating up. 1, 2. This is number 3. He's gonna just explode this week. So
if Elijah Moore could score a touchdown against the Bears defense, I don't even know what Christian Watson can do right now.
Christian Watson.
Does he have 6 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks? Is that right?
Something like that.
He either drops the ball or it's a touchdown. That's
I saw that he is leading in catch rate and drop rate for all rookies this year. Like it's no joke. The guy either rips off a huge play, but we saw it, man, on that little that pass in the fourth quarter from Jordan Love. The speed that he had, I just saw it. Like I saw him running towards, and I was like, all right, well, he's gonna get tackled in about 10-15 yards. Then he kicked on that burner and he flew past everybody on the field.
And the corners run. I think there was a stat, but one of those corners runs like a 4-3, and he just left them in the dust.
Yeah, and I don't think there was an angle that they could have taken where they would have been able to get him. Christian Watson's got some insane speed, and we saw it last week. But then we also, 2 weeks ago, saw the contested catch ability where he was blanketed in the end zone, and he came down with a touchdown on that free play. And he's not going to be getting jump balls like that all the time. It was a free play. Aaron Rodgers played it perfectly and threw it up to him. But not a lot of wide receivers are coming down with that catch. So, I was kind of off Christian Watson a little bit this offseason, but now that we see him healthy and clicking in this offense, he's looked really, really good. So I think all 3 of us are on the same page here. Christian Watson.
Yep, Christian Watson.
Yeah, lost me my matchup last week with that 64-yard touchdown.
Just brutal, but yeah, you gotta run the hot hand, and Christian Watson is hot right now. Next question comes in from YouTube, says, "Love the show. Rashad White, or do we trust Dameon Pierce against a bad run defense?" Man, Dameon Pierce has been terrible.
Awful for 3 weeks.
Yeah, averaging 1 yard per carry over the last 2 weeks. It is weak. And we talked about this in the offseason quite a bit, that we like the talent, but we're looking at a guy on a very bad offense that's probably going to be game script dependent. And he is a good talent, and we see him breaking tackles, but these last couple weeks.
Plus, you put Kyle Allen behind the ball at the helm, man. That just that was just really ugly.
Rashad White for me. I can't. After 3 horrible weeks, I'm not gonna be like, you know what? Let me put him in my lineup. This is gonna be the week now.
So if Leonard Fournette isn't playing, Rashad White easily.
Yeah.
Let's say Leonard Fournette does play this week. Are you still playing Rashad White? over Pierce.
I think, but here's the thing though. We're expecting the Houston Texans to lose again, like they did the past 3 weeks. Earlier in this season, it didn't matter the game script. These past couple of weeks, the game script matters. So we're expecting them to lose again. Then Damian Pierce is gonna get phased out. Like again, look what happened with Miami. He got phased out after like the second drive, basically. So it's like I can't afford that heartbreak again. So I might lean to Rachaad White.
That's where I'm at, because even when Leonard Fournette was playing, and again, I'm just highlighting all my misses from this offseason, but I was way in on Leonard Fournette. But Rachaad White's been outplaying him right now. And even before Leonard Fournette got hurt, Rachaad White was carving out a bigger and bigger role. So I think that even if Leonard Fournette is healthy this week, I think there's a split that probably favors Rachaad White, whether it's 65-35, whatever it may be. I think Rachaad White has done enough that he's going to get the bulk of the carries now. And he's also showcased his abilities as a pass catcher, and he can do goal line work too. So I think I'm going Rachaad White over Dameon Pierce this week.
Yeah, he had a fantastic week last week in his debut and didn't even get in the end zone, right? And still had a great week. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like Leonard Fournette did last year. Now we get this next question coming in from Enzo, and Enzo was saying, do I trade away Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, and Najee Harris for Travis Etienne, Garrett Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, and Chris Olave? That's a huge trade, and yes. I don't
I love
dynasty, redraft, best ball, doesn't matter. I like that other side.
Yes. I do too. I really do.
Yeah,
they're on the rise too. It's like I hate talking about trades this late in the season, or like, should I drop this person for someone on the waiver wire who's been doing well, and you're hesitant. And it's like, would you be hesitant earlier in the season? Like, these guys are hot. Travis Etienne, Garrett Wilson, these guys are really hot. Obviously, Chris Olave has a great floor. Like, Deebo's trending down. Christian Kirk is fine, but yeah, Najee's trending down.
Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Not even talking about just being the top 2 receivers in this class. I think you could look at them both as top 24 options going forward. Like for the rest of the season, they are both wildly talented.
As long as Mike White
ones on their team. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I do my 3 up, 3 down article every single week, and after week 6 in the trending down section, I said all New York Jets offensive players. And then this week, I got to write another article with all New York Jets offensive players in the trending up section. So thank you, Zach Wilson, for making my job easy. Next question, though, comes from Steven Drakes. And Steven is asking us, need 3 to start in half PPR. Dameon Pierce, Ramondre Stevenson, Joe Mixon, and Nick Chubb. I think we're all going to be in agreement here.
Yeah, we all agree. Stevenson, Mixon, Chubb.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's tough benching Pierce because he's a rookie running back and looked good those first few weeks. But what have you done?
3 weeks. He's been horrible.
Next question comes in from Mikey55 on YouTube saying, is this a steal? Jamar Chase for AJ Brown and Joe Mixon.
I'm wondering what side he thinks is a steal. That's what I'm curious about for a side.
I'm thinking that he's giving up Chase to get Brown and Mixon.
Yeah.
Is it? But AJ Brown has not been great these past couple weeks.
Correct.
Joe bust.
Samaje Perine looks exactly like Joe Mixon.
It may be better.
He does. He's been balling his past couple weeks. So I'm like, I kind of want Jamar Chase. Oh, this is a
what
tough
if Chase
one.
isn't himself after the hip injury?
I know, that's a concern too. So hard. Plus,
it was. I'm gonna go with AJB and Mixon.
I'll go with them too. Especially look, you got an RB1,
2 for 1,
a wide receiver 1. Yeah, I'll go that side too. I'll go.
I mean, what Jamar Chase? If we're doing like rest of the season rankings, what he's probably your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, something like that. And what's AJ Brown? Wide receiver 5, 6, 7. I mean, it's not a huge gap there. So you're basically taking like a 2 to a 3 point per week downgrade and getting an RB1 out of it. I think AJ Brown looks better. What was that?
Even though Samaje Perine looks better,
he does. Yeah, I tweeted that on Sunday. I mean, our friend Taylor Cornell, who does the I forget the name of it, but he has a Bengals podcast, and I was listening to him a while back, and he said, "Man, Joe Mixon couldn't run out of a wet paper bag right now," and it just stuck with me because he can't. I mean, as soon as he gets touched, he just falls over. That's been the story all year. He had that one good game, but yeah, I still think I'm going AJB and Mixon here.
Yeah.
Next question comes in, again, from Mikey55. Who would you start at flex, Keenan Allen or DK Metcalf?
Metcalf.
I want to keep saying Metcalf because 15 targets last week. Unbelievable. But there was an article I read today that said his potential to disappoint us this week against the Rams. Maybe
Jalen
they're going to be
Ramsey.
going to their ground game. Jalen Ramsey on Metcalf. So I'm not going to not start Metcalf this week, but I'm tempering my expectations a little bit.
Kelsey cooked. Sorry to interrupt. I was saying Kelsey cooked Ramsey last week.
I mean, the target share is
Ramsey gets
insane.
cooked at least once a week. Let's be honest. He's always going for the big play. We should have known he was on the decline when Darnell Mooney cooked him last year. That's when we should have known that it was done for Ramsey. I mean, still makes the big plays, still gets some hard hits, but I mean, he is just
still gets the Pro Bowl votes. Garbage.
Yeah, he's had a rough season though. When Deebo Samuel stiff-armed him in the open field, you guys remember that?
Yeah,
when he puts it out on Instagram with the Taco Bell bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for Ramsey.
Still going Metcalf.
Tough question though. I kind of want to go with Keenan Allen here.
I'm going. Give me DK. Give me DK.
Keenan got in the end zone last week. I don't know, man.
Especially because I don't think Mike Williams is going to be back this week with that re-injury to his ankle. So Keenan Allen's going to be the de facto wide receiver 1. You know, nothing crazy.
Why not both?
He's got 15 targets over the last couple of weeks. I don't know.
Who did the Chargers play this week?
Las Vegas.
Chargers are playing.
Oh my God,
that's going to be
a shootout,
right?
It could be a shootout. So you got the Seattle and Los Angeles, and we don't want to read too much into game script here, but that could be a low scoring, grinded out type of game where the Raiders and Chargers could be a really high flying game. I think I'm going to go with Keenan Allen in this one, but it's close.
Keenan's had 12.4 and 15.9 in full PPR the last 2 weeks, so solid floor since he came back. I like
still going Metcalf.
8 targets, Mikey. 7 targets, so half the targets.
We got a split jury here, man. I wish we can help you out a little bit more. Hopefully we get had a good conversation that'll help you make your decision, but we're a little bit split on this one. Next question comes in from Rob W. Who should I start at wide receiver, Mike Evans or Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson.
That sounds insane to say. Garrett Wilson.
Marshawn Lattimore comes out there and he just puts Mike Evans on a leash and just walks him around the field for 60 minutes.
Basically, it's embarrassing. It's hard to watch sometimes.
Evans' last 3 weeks, 9, 10, and 5 points in full PPR.
Yeah, now he gets the Lattimore treatment.
Woo. Is Lattimore not that? I'm still going with y'all with Garrett.
It looks like Lattimore.
Is Lattimore healthy? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he should be coming back this week. And I mean, it's become a meme at this point. Like, it's not even funny. Like, this has been going on. They faced off each other twice a year for the last 6 years. And Mike Evans, like one of the most dominant receivers in the NFL, just gets shut down by Lattimore week after week. So,
and they always fight. They always fight and shove and.
Yeah, I mean, which one of them got ejected earlier in the season?
I think it was Mike Evans. I think he threw a punch.
Yeah, like he just gets in his head. Like, I don't want to sit here and try to get in the mind of NFL players, but like you could see it. Mike Evans is just frazzled when he's got to play across from Lattimore. So yeah, I'm going with Wilson in this one.
He went 3 for 61 yards in their last matchup.
I'll say we talked about it in the offseason. Chris Godwin looks like the wide receiver 1 in Tampa Bay.
He's looking good over there. He's
looking really good.
Looking good in my lineup.
Slow start with that ACL tear. It took him a couple of weeks to get up to speed, but man, he's back now and he looks really good. And I believe, isn't he a free agent after this season? I think this is his last year with the Bucks.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
Pretty weak wide receiver free agency class. Bears got $130 million in cap space. Make it happen, baby. All right, next question. Rob W, 14-team league. Running backs are gone. Should I drop Brandon Cooks or Drake London to pick up Zonovan Knight? Yes.
Yeah, any of them.
I don't know which one you want to drop, but yes.
I'd definitely drop London. My goodness.
Cooks has been bad too.
No, I mean.
But I think I would drop London first, I think. Maybe.
This is very topical. I actually just wrote, I've been doing the intro for the Footballguys newsletter, which you can find a link down below to subscribe to that. But I've been doing the intro every single day. And my intro today was all about how it's time to just start dropping your quarterbacks and tight ends and wide receiver. It is time to prep for playoffs. Right now, if you can start 3 wide receivers, you shouldn't be rostering more than 4 or 5. Unless for some reason you're in a position where you've got Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, there's no reason to be rostering more than 1 quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. Don't be streaming tight ends off your bench. Stream them off the waiver wire. Right now, your entire bench should be made up of these contingent high upside running backs. So there's no reason to be holding on to guys like Brandon Cooks and Drake London, because let's be honest, if you're at a point where you have to put one of these guys in your starting lineup, you're probably going to lose anyway. So it gives,
Wow,
board up
That
those
was
running
cold.
backs.
That was cold. Ice
Call it
cold.
like it is. But like right now on all of my teams that are playoff bound, if you look at my bench, it is Keontae Ingram and Zonovan Knight and any RB2 you can think of on their given team, because that's what you want to do this time of year. One, they can end up popping off and then you elevate them into your starting lineup, or two, they end up, getting the opportunity and then they're on your bench. Even if you can't fit them in your lineup, you don't want your opponents picking those guys up in the playoffs and putting them against you. So this time of year, I'm dropping Brandon Cooks. I'm dropping Drake London. I think we can probably have a whole conversation about this, but I mean, really, like once you get down to it, Darius Slayton, Adam Thielen, Tyler Boyd, like there's really not much room for guys like that on fantasy rosters at this point in the season.
Nope.
So I think we're all in agreement here. Yeah, drop
Yeah.
either of them and pick up Zonovan Knight. Next question comes from Red John. Jeff Wilson Jr. versus the Niners or Kyron Williams versus Seattle?
So I want to mention Niners, #1 defense, #1 against running backs, but it's revenge game, and the Dolphins offense is a lot better than the Rams offense. So give me Jeff Wilson.
Yep. Pretty easily Jeff Wilson Jr. for me. Disappointed a little bit last week, but he missed a full quarter with cramps and
he scored.
Yeah, exactly. And he salvaged his performance a little bit. And I think that's kind of the backdoor out with Jeff Wilson is he gets the goal line work on an explosive offense. So even if he doesn't have a 100-yard game, even if he doesn't, go nuts, he's probably going to find pay dirt more often than he doesn't.
He scored every week since he's been traded. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is kind of a top 15 running back this week. Kyron Williams is more of like top 25, top 30, maybe. I'm not completely sold on him yet. I mean, he's getting the pass catching work, which is nice, but Cam Akers isn't going anywhere. Jeff Wilson Jr. has a stranglehold on this job right now in Miami.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Next question comes in from Steve Sweggles, and he's saying, who do you like in starting 2? Isaiah Pacheco, Robinson. Could that be DeMarcus Robinson, James Robinson? I'm guessing James Robinson. These are all running backs. So Isaiah Pacheco, James Robinson, Zonovan Knight, AJ Dillon, or Benny Snell.
Oh God, James Robinson. What that article came out today? He's pissed off. That's what he said. He said, "I didn't come here to New York to not play, honey baby." But it looks like he's not going to be playing.
I think it's because of the draft pick. I think if he doesn't play a certain amount of games, I think there was something about that. Like basically, if he doesn't play a certain amount of games.
It goes from like a 6th to a 5th or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're purposely benching him because they don't want to have to give up their 5th next year.
Why are you gonna say that in an article then, honey baby? Look at the rules, James.
Honestly, like we
listen
talked
to our
about
podcast,
James. But we talked about this when he was in Jacksonville. James Robinson has not been himself. Like since that Achilles injury, it's a great story. He was able to come back and play this year. He was ready for week 1 and all that. But when you look at those efficiency numbers, the rushing yards over expectation and all that, he was one of the worst running backs in the league. So I don't know if he's going to be active this week. Even if he is, I'm not trusting it too much. I think Pacheco is the no-brainer here. I mean, if you're getting close to 20 carries per game on the Chiefs, that's a no-brainer. And he got the goal line work last week, which was nice. Second one is tough, though. I think I might go with AJ Dillon.
Oh, no.
I think
Bears? Against the Bears?
I think I'm going AJ Dillon, Pacheco, too. It's disgusting, but I'm going to go with it.
The Bears are bad.
They're just a horrible defense. Yeah.
So this could be, and I'm not trying to go too deep down narrative street here, but this might be the last time Aaron Rodgers ever plays in Chicago. You don't think he's going to try to go out with a bang? I'm guessing we see like a 350-yard, 4-touchdown game.
He's the owner of the Bears.
He's gonna go out with a bang to his ribs. That's what he's gonna do. That man can't do nothing. But Jordan Love.
I mean, and the Bears defense can't stop anything. So what happens when both of these come together? I think the guy who has just made fools of us for 16 straight years.
Is it Brian Robinson? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, well, in that case, I'm going Brian Robinson. Man, we juiced up last week. How about it?
Brian Robinson and Pacheco.
All right. That's a different question. Brian Robinson then. Yeah, and I'm eating crow on that one too. He looked terrible early in the season, but man, he looked good last week. Ripping off some chunk
Mhm.
plays, running through defenders, juking a little bit.
That big hat.
Sweet Lord.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I spent like an hour on that website trying to, make something that I like. Don't be surprised if I'm wearing a big hat on the show in a couple weeks.
Oh,
do
no.
Next
it.
question comes from Rich Bose saying Derek Carr or
Watson.
Deshaun Watson.
Watson.
Okay, so
Watson.
Carr's got the Chargers. Watson obviously has Houston. So
I'm going Watson
Watson.
here.
I think Watson. Carr's upside is just non-existent. He doesn't really have a ceiling.
Yeah, his boom game is 22 points. Deshaun Watson's boom game is 45. I mean, we're looking at two very different types of players here. So I'm going to go with Watson. Next question comes from Terrell Teltowen saying Pacheco, Pierce, or Gus. So we're talking Isaiah Pacheco, Damian Pierce, or Gus Edwards.
Pacheco.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of Pacheco questions. I don't
Yeah.
know why this is a
Because he
had
didn't-
one good game.
Right, and it was only 15 points and he scored. It doesn't matter what the Chiefs are doing, they're gonna throw the ball. They're just
he's
gonna
averaging
throw
like
on it.
85 rushing yards per game over the last 3 weeks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on IR.
But if he's
I
not
mean-
getting passing game work, he's got goal line, that's fine, but no passing game work really just PPR, it just lowers his. Gus isn't gonna get it either, so obviously, we're going with
So
Pacheco.
I think the floor with Pacheco, just
Yeah.
because of the volume he's getting, his floor is kind of low, but I think he's still getting you like a minimum 6-7 points every single week. Like if he's getting 15 to 20 carries every single week, he's going to find a way to churn out at least 60 yards every single week. The upside is that he stumbles into the end zone a couple times and he has a couple big plays and he gives you a huge week. So he doesn't have the pass catching, CMC type upside, but I think that he still has upside where he can give you 20 points on any given week, and his floor isn't going to kill you because of the opportunities that he's getting. Like I said, I don't expect him to have just a complete dud of a game. They're going to keep feeding him, and he looks pretty good. So I'm going to go with Pacheco here.
Plus, they're playing the Bengals. I'm hoping to see a fun game back and forth. So,
and then Gus Edwards should be a pretty strong play this week. But did you guys see J.K. Dobbins is back in practice now? So
I did.
I'm not getting my hopes up.
I'm not playing any of those.
You got to do something for me, man.
This
JK,
Ravens
do
headache,
something
man. This
for me.
backfield has been a disaster this year.
Absolute disaster. J.K. Dobbins.
Threw
Dead
this
to
one in the
me.
queue thinking it was a question, but this is just somebody saying Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore. Next question, Anthony Ruffin. Kenneth Walker, Keenan Allen, or Mike Evans for flex PPR? Kenneth Walker. Kind of that Damian Pierce. I'm just saying, off to a really hot start. The magic seems
You
to
like
be
Keenan Allen?
dying.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah, but recency bias. Let me actually, because now I'm not sure what Walker has had the last few weeks.
Didn't he
remembering.
score last week? But that was about
Yeah.
it.
He did, yeah, and he salvaged his day with a score, but
Look at 13 and 17 in full PPR. That's not bad. That's a nice floor. I don't know. And no Aaron Donald. We already talked about potentially going to the ground game.
You're right.
So,
That's a tough one. Evans isn't even in this discussion for me. It's down to
agreed.
Walker and Keenan Allen, and that's a really tough one. I think Walker gives you the better floor, obviously, but if you're swinging for ceiling, you go with Keenan Allen.
I'm going Keenan here.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Keenan Allen. I am because especially in full PPR, 5 catches for 50 yards, that's a 100-yard game. I mean, I'd say it's more likely that Keenan Allen goes 5 for 50 than it is that Kenneth Walker goes for 100, and they each are going to have an opportunity in the end zone. I'm going to go Keenan Allen here, but it's a tough one.
it's close. I like it.
Got another question here from Leo saying, for my flex, Dalton Schultz, Jacoby Myers, or Donovan Peoples-Jones?
TPJ.
Jay's been
Goodness.
low-key pretty nice lately. He's been putting up some good numbers. I just don't know if Houston's going to throw all that.
Except for last week, he had,
When he
I think,
finally bought in.
he had double-digit points for weeks and weeks and weeks in a row. And then
when everyone finally says, all right, time
Yep.
to start this guy. That's fantasy, isn't it?
Yep. Oh,
I think I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers here.
I'm going Myers.
Yeah, okay. I'm with y'all.
Mac Jones suddenly figuring it out. Like I don't
They're
really
wearing
know
the
what
red
happened.
jerseys, though, guys. Come
Yeah.
on.
Ew.
Ugh.
Jacoby here.
Ugh.
But I want them to win, so.
You shh, be quiet.
This question comes in from John Tran. Would you guys start Olave or Watson over Evans? Between Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, Jeff Wilson Jr., and Singletary pick 2. So first question,
Okay.
Olave or Watson over Evans? And I see us all
Yes.
yachting.
Yes.
So which one, Olave or Watson? I think you go with Olave here.
Oh, really?
Is it Christian
Yeah,
Watson?
Christian Watson
Mr.
against your
Touchdown?
Bears.
I'm going Christian Watson.
Yeah,
I'm going Christian Watson.
I'm riding the hotness.
I mean, the hotness has been scoring touchdowns on 4 targets per game.
And
Chris
big
Olave is
play.
out here getting like 12 to 15 targets per game. We're looking at 2 very different types of players here.
Tampa Bay, though, Olave is going against Tampa Bay, so
Yeah.
they're not a defense to be scared of, but the Bears are the Bears.
They are.
Watson.
All right.
I think I'm gonna. That's tough. I think I'm
panel.
gonna go with
Flip
Watson.
panel on this one. But let's talk about the other one. Pick 2 between Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, Jeff Wilson Jr., and Devin Singletary. I think process of elimination, we'd probably get rid of Singletary. No disrespect to him, but I don't think that he really belongs with these. So we're kind of bench 1 between Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, Jeff Wilson Jr., 3 very similar players who are getting a lot of carries on very potent offenses, but not getting a lot of pass catching work.
Yep.
Who are the Eagles playing?
Right, because Sanders.
Eagles are playing Tennessee, which has been pretty tough against the run.
Stout against the run. Yeah.
Same thing as San Francisco, though. I'm gonna go. Sorry.
I'm not sitting Sanders. I think I'm keeping him in.
I'm sitting Pacheco out of this bunch, actually.
What?
Yeah,
I like Jeff Wilson Jr. more than Pacheco. As a matter of fact, those are my RB1 and RB2 in my home league this week are Pacheco and Wilson, and I feel pretty confident in both. And
I was going to say
Pacheco in my flex. I'm starting all 3 of them this week.
I'm going Pacheco and Wilson.
Wow, so we're all split?
I'm going Pacheco and Wilson. I think we're going to be split on this one.
I'm going Sanders and Wilson.
I think Sanders because every single time I watch the Eagles, because I love my Jalen Hurts, I'm just seeing some running back get in the end zone every single time I'm watching.
Gainwell is a touchdown machine.
Yeah.
He's annoying.
Sanders, I know he is. If you have Sanders or anyone else, yeah, for sure. I'm going Sanders and Wilson. Ooh. All right. It's gross, but yeah.
That's where I am too, but that's a tough one. Olafub in the chat saying 10-team PPR need 1 wide receiver: Brandon Ayuk, Gabe Davis, or Courtland Sutton. Ayuk for me easily.
Ayuk.
I'm going Ayuk as well.
All right.
It's tough.
This question comes in from Josh McClary: Devonta Smith or Kyron Williams at my flex?
Devonta, easy.
I'm going Devonta too. Just keep an eye on the injury report. I don't think he either was limited or did not practice today, which I was just about to look up.
I'm going Devonta. Have you seen I forget who, somebody tweeted out today. I think it might have been Dwayne again. Giving Dwayne a couple shout outs on this show, but man puts out some really good content and he deserves every bit of it. If you're watching, Dwayne, how's it going? But anyway, he tweeted something out today. The target share since Dallas Goedert has been out. Devonta Smith has seen a minimum 30% target share in every single week. It was like 34 and 39% over the last couple of weeks. Hasn't really turned into fantasy production yet, but the targets are there on a potent offense. I think you're going with Devonta Smith over Williams.
He was limited, by the way, with a groin injury. But they're playing Tennessee. Come on, they got to be passing. They're not going to they're not going to be as effective. Well, they'll still be effective on the ground. It's the Eagles, but they'll definitely be passing a lot.
I'm with you. This one comes in from Bronson saying trade Mike Evans and Deshaun Watson for Jamar Chase, assuming single QB. Yeah,
I'm guessing single QB.
I don't know about that.
I would also. So much depends who the backup quarterback is. Like if you got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes,
Bronson, tell us who you got. Just tell us, and
Bronson,
we'll
if you're watching, drop it in the chat. We're keeping an eye on it because I think that's really what it comes down to. If you got an elite quarterback that you can lean on, go for it. But if you're trading away Deshaun Watson and Mike Evans, so you can start Jamar Chase and Jared Goff, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah,
agreed.
So I think, we'll keep an eye out in the chat, Bronson, and we'll come back to this one if you give us some more information.
He's got it.
What did he say? Oh, already have Burrow and Allen in a 2 QB league though. That raises the value of quarterbacks quite a bit. In that case, I'd almost rather just sit on Watson, and then you got you got 3 of arguably the top 5 quarterbacks right now. You got some insurance to help you out if somebody gets injured. I think I'm sticking with Watson in that case.
Yeah, I think I would stick with him too. I think so.
Yeah, and that's one of those situations where you almost just don't want to help out another team.
Yeah.
If Watson returns to form, and you trade Watson to a playoff contender, you don't want to be facing off against him in a couple of weeks. So that's a good question.
Very
And
true.
appreciate you sticking around and giving us some more context on that one. Last question comes in from Rich Bose. Pick 2, Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman, Amon St. Brown, or Garrett Wilson. This is tough because Chase is the no-brainer here, but first week back, coming off of IR, got a hip injury. We don't know if he's going to be on a snap count.
Chase and St. Brown for me.
That's where I am too.
Oh
Vic,
my
give us a stamp of
goodness.
approval on this one.
Yeah, I guess you're gonna play Chase if he's back, but I just I'm hoping.
So did you see the reports that Jamar Chase actually could have played last week and kind of chose not to? That makes me think that he's going to be darn close to 100% this week. And, crazier things have happened. Who knows? He could be on a pitch count. He could re-injure himself. But I think with the upside here, and that Bengals offense has been clicking lately. Like kind of weird, right? Like that's what it took was an injury to Jamar Chase for the Bengals to
All
finally
it
figure
took
out on
was
offense.
Samaje Perine popping up.
Yeah,
Jamar Chase get hurt, and all of a sudden the offense starts coming together. I think you got to go Chase and St. Brown here, though. Amon St. Brown has been unbelievable. I mean, this guy
so amazing.
Did you see Ian Hartitz tweeted out today his target totals in games where he hasn't had to leave early or been limited with an injury? Gets like a minimum 8 targets every single game. Like puts up double-digit targets in over half of his performances. Yeah, you just got to go with him here. That'll do it. We got through the whole chat today. Ton of fun, as always. Before we sign off, Troy, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at T King Mode, basically on all social media platforms, but Twitter's my home base. I appreciate y'all.
Vic, let everyone know where they can find you.
At FFB_Victoria, Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Dave Kluge. You can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge, but most importantly, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see this video coming at you every single week, as well as all of our other videos, short videos, long form podcasts, and all that fun stuff. If you like listening to the podcast, actually, the best way to get a sneak peek at those videos is to subscribe on YouTube, because a few hours before these hit podcast form, we stream them all live directly to our YouTube, youtube.com/footballguys. So be sure to subscribe there. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode, and we will see you next week.